The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Monday episode of Running Point on ysnlive.com. Brought to you, as always, by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. They go the extra mile for you, so you don't have to. We try to do the same here on this show every single day, and one of the ways we do it, of course, player profiles, coaches' corners. We feature them all on this show, and we have a live one today. A very special guest joining us from Beaver Local, Peyton Roberts from the girls basketball team. Peyton, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You got it. And we've timed this kind of well because you are right on the precipice of 1,000 career points. You're sitting on the footsteps of that mountain, about to reach the summit. We're hoping you get it tomorrow on the network. Chris Sigler's going to be down there for your game against Harrison Central. But we're not going to jinx anything. Not going to say you're going to get it. We're not going to feed into that bad mojo. But what I want to ask you is, you're going to get it eventually. And when you do, what's that moment going to feel like for you? You've put in so much work into this basketball career, and you're about to reach a milestone. What's it going to feel like?
Honestly, so relieving. It's funny to say, but I've been dreaming of this ever since I was little. Me and my parents have been keeping the stats, writing it down, and just knowing that it's right at the doorstep is crazy. I just can't wait. Can't wait to hit it and to be able to relax that the milestone is hit and it's done.
I like that you brought up relieving, because it seems like the closer kids get to 1,000, the more pressure gets put on them, because now they realize, hey, I need 9 points, I need 10 points, I need 25, whatever the number is for their game. It seems like the countdown makes it even more, hard. What's it like? What's it been like for you? These last couple of games where you're getting closer and closer and realizing, like, this is how many I need. It's getting there. It's getting there.
The past couple of games, it's just been play your game. Coaches and my parents and friends and family have been showing their support, but it's just kind of like starting to relax and having to like keep cool and just play your game, play to win. Don't really think about how close you are, even though you know it's right there. So it's just been slow.
When you hit that moment and you're able to celebrate with your teammates, I mean, obviously your teammates mean a lot to you. They have done a lot for this milestone. You can't score unless someone gets you the ball. What's that going to be like to celebrate with your team and the people that you've worked so hard with as a program?
I think it's going to be super exciting. It's going to be, I think, really fun having my teammates, my coaches, just everyone that's helped me get to this point be there, especially my younger girls, my youth girls. I'm really excited for them to be there to watch, knowing they look up to me and I look up to them even. It's going to be really nice having everyone there.
You brought up the youth, and every time we talk to a coach, I think we bring up the youth of the program because that's how you build it. But we never really talk to the players too much about what it's like to work with the youth of a program. And we're talking to kids below junior high that are just trying to work on basketball, trying to get interested in the sport, and that's so important to you. What has it been like as a leader of this team, as a leader of this Beaver Local athletics community, to work with the youth and the future of the programs that you play?
It's super fun. They're very energetic and really driven, and they want to be good, especially at a young age. So it's super good to see that, especially since they are so young. And it's honestly been a learning experience for both me and them. I get to teach them all about the game and like the ins and outs, and they get to teach me like stuff I don't know. So it's really fun.
I'm sure they come to you with a lot of questions. What is the most frequently asked question that you get from the youth athletes?
Probably the most asked question is probably how I do it. Probably how I can score so much, which it's funny because these kids are scoring too. They're just now like developing their game, and it's funny how they just ask, "How do you do it?" And it's just funny to hear.
And I'm gonna ask it too. How do you do it? And we'll go even further into it. Like obviously you've gotten, that skill that you have to score doesn't come overnight. You've put in so much work. So my question isn't just how you do it, but how have you been able to drive yourself to get yourself to this position where you're in now, where you are skilled with the basketball and you do have those kind of assets to go out there and score a lot of points.
Honestly, it comes from a lot of late nights, coming home from like other practices, being out in the driveway. Just both my parents believed in me when I was little. Like I said, I wanted to do this when I was a little girl, and now that it's almost here, it's really exciting to see all the work I've put in pay off. Lots of AAU practices and just getting shots up in the gym, whether it's raining, doesn't matter if it's 90 degrees outside, having my parents rebound for me, like just anytime I could shoot a basketball, I would.
You obviously spend a lot of time in basketball. When did that click in your mind? When did you realize that you liked basketball enough to work on it as hard as you have been?
I would say about my 8th grade year when I realized that like I really like basketball. I just told my dad from the beginning, like, I will be on the wall. Like I want to score my 1,000 points. And ever since then, him and my mom have kept like all my stats, like game by game. Doesn't matter. Like they all have it written down and they've just been there to support me the whole time. So
So you have the written record of every game that you've played, and the notepad I'm sure is out during the games. What's that like for you to know that like your parents care enough about you and your successes? It's not them trying to pressure you into that dream. You came to them and said, "This is what I want to do," and they're the ones that said, "Okay, we're gonna help you do that." What's that been like for you to have them on the journey?
very appreciative, I would say. It's definitely nice having two of your biggest supporters always by your side, always pushing you. Even if you had a bad game, they're gonna let you know. So, but bad game or not, they always say next game, next shot, to not worry about it. So it's definitely nice having them there as a support system, especially coming down to the wire. They're I think it's a little bit more them than me telling them to calm down because they're excited as I am. So
Yeah, who's more anxious about you being 9 points away, you or your parents? I think that's the big question.
I'd have to say my parents because I'm just like go with the flow, just next game, one game at a time, and I think they're getting down to the nail biting wire, and it's just funny because the whole house is like, oh, when's it gonna happen?
On edge, yep. And they're probably holding their breath every shot you put up, hoping that it'll be the one.
Yeah.
Every time we talk to a Beaver local athlete, they get the sense that Beaver local is kind of home. They feel like at a home in the community. It's its own little world down there in Beaver local. So, from your perspective, what's it like in the Beaver local community? What makes it feel like home to you?
I would definitely say the fans and the students and definitely the faculty. That doesn't matter like if you've had this teacher a couple years ago or a recent teacher, the teachers come out and support. The fans are they're so fun and so loud. They always get into every game and the students are really fun too. So everyone just makes the environment super fun and make sure they're there to show support. Big game, small game, doesn't matter, everyone's there.
We feel like we've been saying your name for a long time because obviously you shine bright on the volleyball court as well. Being a multiple sport athlete can be challenging. You have to balance the dedication to the sports. You have to kind of work on the next sport too, and when you can, so you're not just lazily walking into the next sports season. And then you also have to balance school life and the student athlete part of that. How do you juggle it all? How do you keep all these plates in the air?
Well, it's never you're never bored. It's super. Sometimes it's tiring and it's draining, the long nights, multiple practices, coming home and doing homework, but in the end, the reward is it's so it's so nice to like look back at all the hard stuff like you did do and all the rough nights, long nights, homework on the bus after long away games, and then you just realize how far you've come, and it's super nice to know that like you've done all the hard things now, and now it's like the easy journey to what you wanted to see.
When you're where you're at now, so I'm guessing time management has been something that you've grown in, or is it something that you've always been really good at? Do you have to build your time management, or have you always been pretty good at you know organizing yourself?
Definitely a procrastinator, but with playing two sports in school, there comes times where you have to balance it. So like you have to schedule like, oh, practice is this time. I have an hour before the next practice. You have to like balance your time of when school comes first and then when sports come. So
Some people thrive with the procrastination. I know it's looked down upon, but there's some people that just need that a little bit of stress, a little bit of adrenaline to get their best workflow. So I get it. I'm not gonna look down on the procrastination as long as it doesn't become a problem. I think I think there's a benefit to having some stress and that time frame where you're like, I got to get this done in an hour, and the Mission Impossible theme starts kicking in, and you're like, let's go. Um, let's see. Let's talk about the sports you play and the favorite moments in sports. There's a lot of moments. Maybe a big shot, maybe a big block, maybe a big kill. Big dig in volleyball, whatever it may be. What's your favorite moment in sports?
I think my favorite moment in sports this season would have to either be our last Harrison game or our game against Cambridge coming up. We were neck and neck all game, hitting big shots, hitting some big threes to put us in the lead was definitely exciting. The bench was electric and the fans get really into it. So I think some of the biggest moments are hitting big shots, especially momentum builders. So I would have to say my favorite is one of my deep threes from Cambridge. Just super exciting. Like it just changed the momentum of the game and changed the whole like team's dynamic of how we were playing. So I would just say like really big game changing opportunities are probably my favorite. The shifting of the momentum.
And one of the things that we realized from watching you play is there's nowhere where you won't pull up with a shot. Like you said, deep threes doesn't matter. Um, what gives you that confidence? Where does your confidence come from as a shooter?
Honestly, so my confidence as a shooter comes in. I like putting on a show for people. I like people wanting to always know like what is she gonna do next? Like what move? Where is she gonna shoot the ball? And I like keeping my team on their toes too. We have this thing where if I give you the look, it's either like a backdoor or a crazy pass. So I like I just knowing that I can make them, and I like to challenge my defenders. So always just keeping everybody, whether it's my teammates or not, on their toes is definitely where I like to go.
You keep us on your toes. What is next? Like what's the next thing you're working on in practice that you're trying to perfect so you can break it out during a game?
Definitely, I wanna do some more behind the back passes, some more crazy offenses. Just get the whole team involved, like more like cut and go and more flashy passes, just something to get the crowd and the team going.
The thing we know about success in athletes is success also comes with bigger expectations. When you score that many points in a game, people are expecting you to do that every time, every night out. How have you handled the expectations and the pressure that come with the success that you've been having?
Honestly, I think I've handled it pretty well. It At first it was exciting. I was like, "Oh, I'm scoring so much." But now it's just I don't want to say I'm used to it, but I know my role like as a leader of our team. I know my role and I know that when I have the opportunity to score, I'll score, but I also like getting my teammates the opportunity to score. So I like having everybody on the court and the floor, like see the floor as I do, and I like giving other people opportunities, but honestly, you don't really think about it. You just kinda do what you know what to do, and it just happens. At the end of the night, you just go see the score sheet and you're like, "Oh," like, so
I do want to ask you before we let you go about your leadership and what it's been like to build your leadership muscles and to be a leader of this team, and how you think that's been developed in yourself. Is like you said, like you can score, you can go out there and score when you have to, but you want to be a leader of this team. You want to make your teammates better as well. How have you been able to kind of grow as a leader over your career, and where do you think you are as a leader compared to where you want to be?
I think I've grown as a leader, definitely just trying to be more involved with the team and making sure everyone is understanding like what we're doing, say like what play we're running, or just everyone has the same grasp of what we're doing. And then where I want to be, I just want everyone to like flow and click and just automatically know like, hey, the momentum's here, we're going to do this. Or like I just want the flow to be better. But also just having my teammates support me has also made me more of a leader, I feel, because knowing that they trust me to call it a play or pass a crazy ball to them inside, like knowing that they trust what I'm going to do allows me to I feel like it allows me to help lead them more, knowing that they trust me. So.
All right, Peyton, before we let you go, every player profile, we give the athlete the chance to shine a light on the people in their lives, their support system, the people that they wouldn't be here without. So I want to give you the time to send your shout outs and shine that spotlight on the people that you think deserve it.
I'd like to thank my parents. They're obviously my biggest support system. They're my rocks. They're always there for me. I'd like to thank my teammates for just everything they've done, helping me get to where I am today, helping push me at practice, and just all my friends and family, coaches. I would like to thank Coach Sorge and Coach Starkey and Coach Mays for just believing in me and allowing me to, having the trust in me to help lead the team, and I would just like to thank them so much for just seeing the potential that we had this year.
All right, Peyton, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us today on Running Point. We appreciate the time. Tell your parents to take a breath tomorrow a little bit, all right?
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Chris Sigler will see you tomorrow live on the network. Hopefully, Peyton Roberts makes it a milestone night, and we wish you the best of luck the rest of the season.
Thank you.
All right, Peyton Roberts joining us live on the show. We love live guests. We'll get them from time to time. Peyton Roberts, like we said, very close on that horizon, 9 points away from 1,000 career points. And tomorrow, Beaver Local versus Harrison Central from the Beaver Dome. Chris Sigler will have the call, so make sure to tune in on that tomorrow. We have a lot to talk about before tomorrow, though. We have to talk about tonight's games. We have to talk about the weekend that was and recap all the scores that came in over Friday and Saturday and have some fun with that. So all of that, recaps and previews and all that fun stuff coming up next on Running Point, which is always brought to you by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. We will be right back and come back for previews, recaps, and more.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens. On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
Craftsmanship to us is 60 years of pride and dedication.
Passed down from generation to generation.
The hardwood floors that your kids take their first steps on.
The solid wood doors you quietly close at night.
The things we create day in and day out are the products that end up turning your house into a home.
At Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, uncompromising quality and craftsmanship built our business.
And it will keep us moving forward for generations to come.
Going the extra mile at Greenwood Chevrolet means we want to take care of the community that takes care of us too.
And we have to work together always. And that's how you stay in business for 40 years.
You know, I love being a helper because when I help somebody, it makes me feel good.
It means a lot that I can make a difference in others' lives.
So I will do everything I can and just being there for them every step of the way.
I want them to know within the first 5 minutes that they could depend on me. That's what going the extra mile means, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day is ended, or it's time to have fun. It all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business. No job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
And welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you as always by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. I'm Anthony Hartwig. I want to thank you so much for tuning in on this wonderful Monday afternoon. We have a lot to discuss. The second half of the show, we have recaps, we have previews, and let's start with the recap of the weekend. Let's hop into the DeLorean a little bit and jump into the YSN scoreboard, which is on ysnlive.com. And it's always presented by Burnett Pools, Spas, and Hot Tubs. Let's see what we had go down on Friday as we hop in. ysnlive.com/scores is where you can find this. It's a wonderful tool for our fans, whether you are at one of the games that we have or you're watching one of our broadcasts. Either way, you don't want to look away for too long, and the YSN scoreboard is a great way to get live updated scores on the scoreboard. We have a great team behind the scenes that works very hard to make sure the scoreboard is as live updated as possible, and we do that so you don't have to wait until midnight for the final scores to come in. So Friday, January 5th, 5th for sure, 2024. Let's look at what happened. Cheney, they got a big win over the Youngstown Academy of Urban Scholars, 63-19. The final score there, 53, to 19. We saw Ashtabula St. John get the win over Chalker, 64-55. A big win for St. John. The Heralds get their first win of the season. Lakeview continues their run in the 88th. They get their win over Girard. Final score there, 51-36. Bulldogs get the win on the road in Girard. As we scroll over the battle in Akron, the St. Vincent St. Mary Irish, just a little bit too much for Hoban. It was a big third quarter for St. Vincent St. Mary, 71-62, the final score there. But I think Hoban got a really good measuring stick from that game because obviously their road to a state championship, to a repeat, is going to be very tough, and they have to see how they line up against some of the areas and districts best. Before they think about state, they got to think about region and district. And when you think about the teams that they're going to see in the region and the district, it's very talented. So they need a good measuring stick of teams they might, or caliber of games they might run into. They lost by 9. This is kind of a game where you knew that Hoban was on that level. They had opportunities to make runs in this game. They had opportunities to make a couple plays that would have turned the tide. So they lost to St. Vincent St. Mary, but I think they found out what they were doing right, what they were doing wrong, what things they have to adjust. And I think this is actually a very beneficial game. If Hoban goes on to make a deep run, I'm going to look back at this game, and I was able to watch it because Friday night, I didn't have a game myself, so I watched some of our broadcasts, and Ty Bartell and Matt Marr did a great job calling this one. I was able to watch a handful of the action, and I think there were definitely things on film that TK Griffith is going to look at and say, okay, this is exactly where we need to tighten the screws. And then there are also some things where, you're going to see on tape and on film where you go, okay, that looks really good. We execute that really well against a team like St. Vincent St. Mary. And to be honest, region and district, I don't know if you'll see a team that does things better than St. V's. So if you can execute that particular thing against St. Vincent St. Mary, I think you can pretty much do it against anybody. So there's going to be a lot of things that TK Griffith can take away from the film of that game, and some positives, and the things that didn't go positively, they were definitely very fixable. I don't think there was anything in this game that I saw watching it that was like, okay, Hoban is just not on that level, or they just can't make that play, or they don't have the ability to stop that play on defense. So everything that went wrong for Hoban in this night, everything that was the difference maker between winning and losing, I thought was very fixable. And everything that went right was just like, okay, we can do this against a team like St. Vincent St. Mary. And like I said, I don't think you're going to see a team in the region or in the district that Hoban will run into that you can say is significantly better than St. Vincent St. Mary. I think if you're able to do that against the Irish, you can do that against just about anybody. So I liked what I saw from Hoban. I think this is going to be a big turning point in their season. That's all this is. I mean, Hoban isn't working towards a conference championship like a lot of these teams. So there's not a lot of weight, not as much weight on winning and losing these games for Hoban. This is all about what does it do for us in our ultimate goal, which is getting back to the level we were last year. And everyone's goal is to win a state. But I think for Hoban, it starts first with getting out of the Division I district, which is hard enough, and then making a splash in regionals and taking it one game at a time. But to be able to have a game against St. V's and to be able to say, we're right there. We're on the doorstep of being at that level of basketball. I think it's going to be a really good tool for Hoban to use going forward. West Branch welcomed in Alliance, and they got the big win over the Aviators 56-51. It didn't look good to start. West Branch found themselves in a pretty big hole, but the Warriors climbed themselves right out of it and get the win by 5 over the upstart Aviators in the EBC. A big win for West Branch and those boys. Brookfield and LeBray squared off, and it is the Vikings keeping their hold on the MVAC grade tier. They get the win over Brookfield 65-49, the final score in that one. Beaver Local got into a little offensive shootout with Cambridge, but Beaver Local eventually, this too much offense. Austin Klein, a big game as always for Beaver Local. They get the win over the Bobcats 79-68. A really good one went down in Canfield. I should say in Austintown Fitch, between Canfield and Fitch, where the Falcons made a late run and it looked like maybe they could sneak up on the Cardinals, but some clutch free throws down the stretch put the Cardinals ahead by 2 possessions, and the actual really quick bucket by Austintown Fitch was made into a moot point by some clutch free throws with about 10 seconds left by Canfield. So they were able to get the 3-point victory, 51-48. If they would have missed those free throws, then Austintown Fitch obviously would have been down by 3, and they would have been able to tie the game on that possession. They obviously, once they're down 2 possessions, you try to get the quickest bucket possible. They didn't force up a 3. They went up with a 2. But they weren't able to get it in time to really get another possession. So those free throws really big for Canfield, but Austintown Fitch, a great fourth quarter. They never say die. I really like watching Marcel Finkley play. He is just tenacious. In that last bucket, it was like a microcosm of what he's able to do. Went up lightning quick, beat everyone down the floor in transition after a make. I love teams that run after makes, because it's easy to just be like, oh, they made the shot, so now we have to slow down and run a half-court offense. No, you go after a make. And I think one of the teams in basketball lore that is so good at this, North Carolina, if you ever watch the Tar Heels play basketball, they've been doing this for years and years and years. Everyone knows they're good at transition, and after a make, there's not a basketball team in the world, I will die on this hill, that does it better than North Carolina, getting down the floor after a team makes a shot and getting a quick bucket, because other teams get lazy after they make a shot on defense. Because a lot of teams, they make a shot and they think, okay, that team's going to slow it down. They're going to go into the half court. You can't transition off a dead ball. But teams like Austintown Fitch that know how to run right after a make, those are so deadly, and they took advantage of that a lot against Canfield. And I think that might be something that Coach Collin looks at, like, what are we doing getting back on defense after a make? I know that's kind of one of the bottom of the barrel things you look at in high school, because not a lot of teams have the athletes to necessarily run after a make shot. But I think in this game there were some times when you make a shot, you get a little lackadaisical getting back on defense, and someone like Marcel Finkley gets behind the defenders that are supposed to guard him, then gets into a mismatch and he's able to score. So that might be something that Coach Collin works on, because he is someone that is always turning that wrench, and that's why Canfield's so good, and that's why he's a legend. And that might be something he looks at and says, hey, we need to work on this in practice. We need to get back on defense after a make and not become content with the made shot and just automatically think this team's going to sew the ball down because we made our shot. So I thought Fitch did a really good job of that, and just not enough. Canfield, like I said, clutch free throws down the stretch, get them the win, and they are still undefeated in that AAC early in the conference season, just 2 games in. for the Cardinals. Campbell Memorial was able to get a big win over Champion, 57-34. The Red Devils get the dub. We saw Newton Falls able to handle Crestview, 47-34, the final score in that one. Liberty, they beat Garrettsville Garfield. These Liberty guys starting to put some things together. 68-64, the final score there. We saw, at least I saw Liberty Young live in their first game of the year against Mooney, and they're young. They're young, but they're talented. And I said that after that Mooney game, and I think even Coach Palermo said that. Mooney handled them in that game. It was a mismatch at that point of the season. But I think Coach Palermo, who's really good at seeing things, he said it in his post-game interview. I said it on Running Point the next day. This Leopards team young, but they're talented, and if they start to figure things out, that's danger zone for a lot of teams in that MVAC grade tier. And they're starting to figure some things out. They're starting to learn how to win, and that's one thing that young teams really have to do. They have to learn how to win games and have that winning culture. Liberty's starting to do that. Evan Bates is always going to give you a great performance, and I think he's the glue and the driving force of that offense. So obviously he's going to do what he always does. He's a shining star for that Liberty team, but his other players, his younger teammates, starting to step up a bit, starting to give him some contributions to supplement his 20 per game. So love to see Liberty get some wins and that young team building for the future of the program. Lamar Lamb doing a great job down there in Liberty. Waterloo dominates Jackson Milton 50-22. Final score there, a tough night on offense for the Blue Jays. Waterloo defense under the radar, very good, very, very good. They haven't allowed more than 60 points too much this year. I think only once. I could be mistaken. Don't have their whole results right in front of me, but when I see Waterloo results, I don't see the other team in the 60s too often. And in boys basketball, that's ultra impressive. Columbiana gets the big win over Latonia in the EOAC, 61-18, the final score in that one. We saw Middle Ridge lose to Willowville, 61-41, one of the best offensive outputs we've seen from the Rockets so far this year. Mass and Washington, they were really good. They came into Boardman and showed how good they were. 70-25. The final score there. Massillon gets to win in Boardman. McDonald and Western Reserve, they play a really good matchup, and it's a rivalry and a low-scoring one too. Western Reserve able to pull it out, 38-27. The final score, Blue Devils of Reserve get the win over McDonald. Wyndham and Pie Valley, it's the Lakers. They get the close win, 66-60 in the Bomber Hangar. That was a tough one for Wyndham. They had some plays down the stretch where they had a chance to get a win, and props to the Lakers for being able to make the right plays. That could have easily gone to overtime if you watch that game down the stretch, or it ended up in a Bomber victory. Poland was able to hold off South Range 61-49. The final score there. Poland still in front in the NE8. South Range now with 2 losses. So they're in that sense where desperation. If they want to repeat as league champions, they better turn things around and run the table the rest of the way. They cannot afford another loss because I don't think Poland's going to lose 3 times. They'll get Poland again later on in the season, obviously. In the Thriller Dome, and South Range will still have chances to go. They have to take care of Lakeview too. I mean, when Lakeview and Poland square off, that's going to be a big one. But those are South Range's 2 losses in the league. Lakeview and Poland, they have both of them again later on in the season. So if South Range wants to repeat as NE8 champions, they're going to have to make adjustments against those 2 teams and then hope that they both kind of beat each other up as well. We go into the next game, which was Valley Christian getting the win over Southern Local, 73-21 final score in that one. South Springfield all over Sebring, 61-23. Tigers get the big victory there. We saw Niles and Struthers go to town in Niles, and it's Struthers getting the win, though, 56-45 final there. United beats East Palestine, 44-38, a good one going down in EP. as United able to pull out the victory just barely. Tough one in Howland as the Tigers fall 68-63 to Warren Harding. Wellsville falls to Lisbon 50-33, the final score there. Hubbard was victims to Youngstown East, which is, I think, a very under-the-radar team that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. Youngstown East, but they have packed together wins, and they get another one over the Eagles, 68-60. Impressive road victory. Talk about impressive road victories out of Youngstown. How about Mooney going to East Liverpool, going to the Potter Fieldhouse, which everyone will tell you is a tough place to play, and they control this game. They win in dominating fashion, 66-51. Final score, Mooney. Impressive win for the Cardinals. We saw Mohawk get the win over Beaver Falls. Final score there for the Warriors, 58-33. And then Salem fell in a close one on the road against Carrollton, 45-41. The Carrollton Warriors get the win over Salem. Girls basketball in the CVC on Friday night. Conneaut got the win over Lakeside, 69-27. Jefferson gets the win over Harvey, 38-34. And then in the battle of the unbeatens, it's Edgewood getting the win over Madison, 61-53. The final score there. Edgewood girls still undefeated on the season. Coach Randy Vensel, I think, doing a lot that a lot of people probably didn't expect him to do. You know, you lose a girl that scores 23 per game in Casey Kanicki. And, you know, a lot of people are like, okay, where are you going to find success? And that team has found it, and they have rallied together, and they have found ways to win sometimes when it didn't look pretty. I remember doing their first game of the year in Grand Valley. There were times in that game where it didn't look great, but they just find ways to win. They're well coached. Randy Vensel doing a great job down there. They have great leadership. And Edgewood just finding ways to win games. Now they're confident as all get out, and they're going to be hard to beat. Madison, I think, was the biggest test in that conference. You know, undefeated Madison, they were rolling. They come into this game, and Edgewood takes care of home court. That's the big thing when you're going up against another really good team in the conference, and you're trying to get conference championship type wins. Gotta protect your home court, because now a little bit of the pressure is going to be off when Edgewood has to go to Madison, which they will inevitably have to do, right? So when you go to Madison, it's not going to be, hey, we have to win the conference. You know, it'll probably be one where they have to win to avoid sharing the conference with Madison. But if both teams take care of business, and I know Perry is still there on both of them, so Perry is still a team that can knock both of these teams off. They're pretty good with the Pirates. But if both those teams win out, obviously, where we're talking hypotheticals, and Edgewood goes to Madison, and they've both taken care of business the rest of the way, it's not going to be a must-win for Edgewood to win the conference because they took care of their home. Now it would be, hey, let's win it outright, right? Which is obviously the first and foremost goal. But if you lose that game, you're not losing the conference championship. Not on that night, at least. So a big win for Edgewood, knocking off undefeated Madison, staying undefeated themselves, 61-53, the final score. Let's hop from Friday into Saturday. We had plenty of games go on Saturday as well. As you see a good mix of girls and boys basketball, we will start with Badger getting the 9-point win over Garfield, 53-44, the final score there. We saw Brookfield really struggle against Columbiana, 42-11. The Clippers get the win defensively. The Clippers looked really good in that game. Beaver Local gets the win over Lisbon, 65-36, the final score in that one. We keep going over as Campbell gets the win over Latonia by the final score of 34-16. Red Devils with a big win for their program. United puts up a fight over the Division 4 powerhouse, and a lot of people think maybe a favorite in the district in Division 4. 48-40, Springfield gets the win over United. I think their program needed that because last couple times that Springfield played against a really good team, they have fallen. So being able to go to a really good team on the road get a victory. I think good for morale boost for Springfield is the non-conference play for the Tigers has not been kind. So to be able to get a non-conference victory on the road against a very well-respected and very good United team, big for the Tigers. Warren JFK, they continue to score at a high pace, 72-22. JFK gets to win over Lowville. We saw Poland and Crestview match up in Poland. This game was close for about 2.5 quarters. Late in the third quarter, Crestview makes a little bit of a run, and they get a lot of separation. Then they own the fourth quarter easily. And Crestview with a statement when their first ever matchup, or at least first matchup under Coach Blatch against Poland, definitely at Poland, and they get to win 54-32. The final score there. Addison Rhodes and Laverne Gaskins do their normal thing, but I was at this game, and I'll tell you, as much pub and light that Addison Rhodes and Laverne Gaskin get, and rightfully so, they are tremendous basketball players. They deserve every ounce of respect and attention they get from the media. But one of the things I have to say about this Crestview team is everyone else does their job really, really well. Whether their job is to handle the ball, whether their job is to play really good defense, some of their jobs are, hey, go out there and score 6 or 7 points. Like, that's what we need from you. We need at least 6 points from you just to add to our offense. Because obviously, Addison Rhodes and Laverne Gaskins, they're good. They're great. They can't go out there and score 60 combined points every night. So we need other girls to go out and score, your 6 or 8 points. And they have girls that can do that. Hit down big shots. Maya Miller can go and score you 6 or 7 points per game. Emily Downey averaging 7, right? She can definitely do it with the perimeter shots. I love Breda Cross, the freshman, handling the ball so well for this Crestview team. I was so impressed with Breda Cross in this game because Poland forces mistakes, especially from young players. That is their resume on defense. They love to force you into bad decisions, and a lot of unforced / forced turnovers from Poland because they make you feel like you have less time than you do, and they make people panic, and you see a lot of teams make ill-advised throws because they think a trap is coming because it's come all day and it doesn't, and then all of a sudden Poland gets a breakaway layup. That's what Poland's defense is known for, but Breda Cross, the freshman, did a wonderful job in controlling the ball and controlling the tempo. Crestview took about a half to adjust to the defense. The first half, probably a few more turnovers than Coach Blatch would like from their offense, but man, the second half, it was like a different team. Poland couldn't get the turnovers they needed, couldn't get the defensive stops they needed, and when you don't turn them over, they get really easy looks inside because honestly, Poland had no chance to guard Addison Rhodes or Laverne Gaskins in open space. So the Poland hope for defense was cause turnovers and cause havoc with those traps, and once it stopped working, it was almost game over, and I think Coach Blanche would say that too. Like, they didn't have anyone that in a one-on-one kind of situation could guard Addison Rhodes or could guard Laverne Gaskins. It's just they weren't on that level, and I think Poland had to rely a little bit on the traps and the turnovers that they had. That's why the first half was so close, because it was working for Poland. And once Crestview cleared that up in the second half, which I was really impressed with, because you look at Crestview's schedule, not a lot of teams on that schedule are playing them that kind of defense. Like, that's the first time they played probably that kind of trap pressure, ball pressure, man-to-man zone, switching up defenses. All the teams that Crestview plays, even the good ones like Campion and LeBray, are going to straight up say, hey, we're going to zone you. They're going to put them in the zone. You're not going to see a lot of man-to-man because you have to keep them out of the inside. And Poland didn't go away from that. Yes, they zoned them up. Yes, Poland played zone. But they also said, hey, they're going to be possessions where we pressure you and we just put straight up ball pressure on your guards. And I thought Crestview did a really good job handling that, especially, like I said, in the second half. We go to the next game. Jefferson gets their second win in as many days as their girls beat St. John by a final score of 60-39. Great win for the Falcons. Great weekend for the Falcons. How about this one? West Branch. They get back to their ways as they had a little bit of a skid. They lost 2 of their last 3, and that one they won was against Minerva. No disrespect for Minerva, they're just not on West Branch's level at all. So that win really had no bearing to their, quote unquote struggles. I thought, coming into this game, they probably still felt like they're not playing their best basketball of late, but man, they played a really good game against Boardman. And West Branch kind of dominates the Spartans, 52-29, the final score there. They kind of woke up, in a little bit of a lull there where they lost to, by the way, great losses like Canfield, Olmsted Falls. Olmsted Falls was state runner-up last year, and Canfield went to the regional finals. So, you're going to lose some games against really good teams, and they lost almost at the buzzer to Canfield. So, you can say, hey, they weren't playing great basketball, but at the same time, they were playing really, really good teams. And I think they needed this win to kind of get back on track. And I think Boardman played West Branch at the worst possible time, because a desperate West Branch team that needs a win to get morale back into that gym, not a fun team to play. And I think Boardman found that out the hard way. 52-29, final score from West Branch. Louisville was able to beat Salem, but close. Salem puts up a fight against a really good Louisville team. 51-41, the final score there. Carrollton gets the win over East Liverpool, 67-17. Tough one for the Potters. Austintown Fitch makes Canfield lose 2 AAC games in a row, as Fitch gets the win, 43-34 over the Cardinals. Now you look at this AAC and you go, Howland is right there. They don't have a loss yet. Fitch doesn't have a loss yet, and Boardman doesn't have a loss yet in the AAC. So right now, Boardman and Fitch are the two teams that had consistent AAC games in the week. Howland didn't play yet in the league this week, so obviously their time's coming. But Fitch with 2 big wins, Boardman with a big win over Canfield. You start to see how this is going now. Canfield, they're in a tough spot. The AAC is not like other conferences where there's a lot of games to make up a tough start. 2 losses early, you go 0-2. You can't afford another loss, but you don't have a lot of wiggle room here. Though the only saving grace for Canfield is that the AAC is so tough that maybe you can expect them to beat each other up. But at the same time, you have to get through that tough schedule, and you pretty much can't afford a third loss. So Canfield not in a great spot in the conference with 2 losses in a row to Boardman and Fitch back to back. Cardinal Mooney, their girls got the win over Southeast. That's one that they needed really bad. 47-26 final score there. Cardinals get the win. We saw Edison fall to Harrison Central, 53-46. Ursuline gets the win against Warren Harding gets the win. I'm sorry, I looked at that the wrong way. Warren Harding beats Ursuline 53-46, the final score there. The Raiders were the big one. And then in overtime, Middle Ridge keeps pace in the MVAC. Just 1 loss for the Rams. They couldn't afford one, and they don't get one. 62-54. They beat Western Reserve in overtime. You look at Western Reserve. They've played the top 2 teams. They lost to Springfield by 2, and they lose to Middle Ridge in overtime. So I think they feel like they're right there. They can make a run at this, and if they just clear up a couple of things, get a couple of things a little bit better at Western Reserve, with 2 losses in the league. So they're in a hole, but they're looking pretty dang good, pretty dang dangerous as well. Boys basketball. Lakeside falls to Harvey, 60-51. We saw Orange get the win over Beechwood, 69-49 final score there. Edgewood falls to Perry, 67-64. We saw Cardinal fall to Grand Valley, big win for the Mustangs, 64-57. Conneaut falls to Geneva, 91-64. Heartland Christian beats Chalker, 72-30. And last but certainly not least, United beats the Youngstown Academy of Urban Scholars, 41-33. We had one hockey score come up on Sunday, by the way, as Canfield drops one to Westlake, 6-1 in Canfield hockey. So wanted to make sure we got to that before we went to the next part of our show, which is, of course, the preview section. We want to jump into what games are going on tonight, so we're going to stay on this scoreboard. So a lot to look at, a lot of scoreboard looking at. Hope you guys don't mind, but we go right from Friday to Saturday to now Monday, girls basketball night. And here's what it looks like. Struthers at Lakeview, 88 play continues. Ashtabula St. John going to Badger. Brookfield going to Garfield. East Palestine at Columbiana. Hubbard goes to Girard. LeBray trying to draw the MVAC even. If LeBray wins and all three teams champion, LeBray, Crestview, they all have one loss in the MVAC. And if Crestview wins, they go 2 games up on LeBray, and they will keep first place in the MVAC with Champion being their next test in the second game against the Flashes coming up soon. Newton Falls goes to Champion tonight in MVAC play. South Range now all of a sudden with a chance in the NE8 and the girls basketball program. After beating Poland, they go to Niles trying to keep that momentum alive. They have 2 losses. Poland has 1. United goes to Lisbon tonight. Valley Christian goes to Wellsville. We see Western Reserve going to Lowville. Ursuline travels to Salem. We see Wyndham going to Fairport Harding. Beaver area hosting Central Valley. Middle Ridge trying to still keep pace in the MVAC. They go to Jackson Milton. Sun Local travels to Latonia. We have Lordstown going to Pymatuning Valley. We have John Adams going to Sebring. We have Liberty going to Camel. We have Springfield going to McDonald. Those are the Battle of Matizzi, as Springfield's John Matizzi goes up against his dad, Tony Matizzi. And then we have East Liverpool rounding out the schedule going to Buckeye Trail tonight as well. Let's go over who's going to be on the network and what announcer you'll have calling the game that you're going to be watching. We'll go to our Games at a Glance page. And on Monday, January 8th, here's how the day looks. Lakeview and Struthers will be called by the Lakeview boys and Sam Ballast and Jake Nicholas. Badger against St. John will be Bill Shea on the call. It's going to be varsity only at 5:30, so make sure to tune in early for that one. The school broadcast network from Garfield will have their game against Brookfield. Joe Seabu going to be at Columbiana for East Palestine coming to town. Matt Marr, Jordan Barber going to Girard as Hubbard comes to town. Chris Sigler going to Crestview for that big one inside the MVAC. Great tier. Noah Ricks going to Champion for their game against Newton Falls. Ian O'Brien will be in Niles as South Range tries to keep pace in the NE8. DJ Oakley going to be in Lisbon as United goes to Lisbon. Valley Christian going to Wellsville. The school going to be handling that one. Chris Colucci going to be in Lowville for Western Reserve. In Lowville, Luke Davis going to be in Salem for Ursuline and Salem. Noah Doty going to be in Beaver area against Central Valley. And I will be in Jackson Milton tonight for their game against Middle Ridge. Some scheduling notes. The East versus Cardinal Mooney game, if you're looking for that on your schedule that you got before the season started, that game has been canceled. And so has, or I should say postponed. It's a conference game, so it will be remade. And the canceled game between Warren JFK and Middlefield Cardinal as well. So that game is canceled. And then if you're also a Poland girls basketball fan, you're looking on your schedule. They were originally scheduled to go to Hawken today. That game has been canceled as well. So just some notes if you're looking at a schedule that came out when the season started, some changes for today. Big night on the network. ysnlive.com/live is where you can find it. Thank you so much for tuning in today to Running Point. Gonna pop me off real quick. Pop the scoreboard up. Pop me up. Thank you so much for tuning in today to Running Point on ysnlive.com. Want to thank Peyton Roberts for being able to come on the show live at 1 o'clock. Reminder, she is very close to 1,000 points. She just might get it tomorrow against Harrison Central at home. Chris Sigler will have the call in the Beaver Dome down there. So hopefully we get a milestone moment at YSN Live. Want to thank her and obviously Josh Sigler, the Beaver local AD, for setting that up and getting her the proper, whatever she needed to conduct that interview. And also want to thank all you for tuning in to Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Make sure to check out all the games tonight. Remember, ysnlive.com